What's up, guys? We're going to do a patch notes overview. I skipped the last couple of patches, but I figure since this is a huge patch, this is a perfect time to get back into it. So let's just jump right into it. So with this patch, it's coming on August 11th. We have a new trapper coming out called Jack. He looks really cool, and I can't really play the video because I think YouTube will have a problem with it, but you can go to YouTube and look at Evolve's channel, and they have a little teaser for Jack. So what he basically does, he has two sets of pistols as his main DPS weapon. His crowd control is he basically can stop a monster in his tracks, and he can do that mid-ability. So he can do things like stop a Goliath charge, stop a Goliath leap smash, stop Goliath in the air, things like that. So that's going to be really interesting. I don't know how. I feel like it's going to be super annoying to play against that as the monster, but I don't know how the energy is going to work on it because it's a beam. So I'm guessing the longer they have it on the person, or it's based on the monster's movement towards it or something. So maybe you can block like one ability out of the three, because we'll see a little bit later how they're rebalancing monsters. Basically, you're going to want to take your stage 1 abilities, like three of them at stage 1 and stuff like that, because they rebalanced everything. So um, I forget what else does he have. I know those are the two main things that I remember, and then obviously the dome. Oh, and then his tracking ability is basically he sends out these like little beacons kind of, and it looks for monsters ahead of them and elite wildlife. So it almost looks like it functions kind of like Crow's Gobi in that it'll reveal them, but I'm not sure if it tracks them or if it just reveals them or how exactly it works. If it's like Cabot's Dust or if it's like Abe's Dart or how that exactly works, but I know that's kind of how his tracking mechanism works. Um, so we're having Murder Pits. Basically, Murder Pits is a new map, 5 new maps really, for arena specific. So they're basically built to be fun in arena. I watched through a couple of them. I remember one has like this big pit in the middle of the map. It's like a circle, kind of like a gladiator arena, but there's obstacles up in the area where you'll be mostly fighting in, and in the middle there's 4 tyrants in the bottom of like the pit of water. So you can like push hunters into there, or if the monster falls in and take a ton of damage that way. So it's kind of a cool little gimmick, I suppose. And most of these maps have like crates of food at the spawn, so you can armor up and stuff like that. So it's built for arena specifically. I think it's going to make arena a lot more fun. I'm not sure if they're going to switch to just using these maps or if they're going to leave the other ones in. I would be okay with just having these arena specific built maps for arena. I think that would be really good because they're kind of balanced towards that, and there's little things that they can do. Like I think one of them has like a cage full of reavers, and the monster can open the cage and release the reavers, which it's reavers, so they don't really do much. Maybe it's for food or something, but it's interesting. That's pretty fun. Alright, so we have skill-based matchmaking. Basically, ranked mode is coming finally. We've been asking for this for a while. I'm guessing that they're going to just make this into Hunt. I don't think that they're going to add another uh, like division in the menu for ranked or non-ranked, and that's going to have an effect on some people that don't like ranked and rather just play casually, because people get ladder anxiety. It's definitely a thing. I come from a StarCraft background where it was a bigger thing, but people don't want to lose their rank when they achieve something, and so they just decide not to play. And so that could actually hinder the game a little bit. The problem is I don't think the player base, at least on PC, is big enough where you can separate into just ranked and just unranked. Now there's a couple things that are going on here that I really like. So the separate queues for Monster and Hunter is going to help a lot of people that hate playing Monster, and likewise for me, a lot of the time I just want to play solo because none of my friends are on, so I like to play Monster. I like playing both Monster and Hunter. They did a couple things here where it's supposed to relieve some of the stress of Trapper and Monster. So some people that don't like Monster, you should probably give it a try again once this patch goes live. Maybe you'll enjoy it more. So skill-based matchmaking, there's going to be 3 divisions, and all of them have subdivisions. So there's bronze, silver, and gold, and then there's things like, I know it goes up to bronze, silver, gold, destroyer is the highest, but there's basically things like that inside of them that are rankings inside of each division. Kind of like, I know most people play League of Legends, kind of like being, from silver 5 to silver 1 and stuff like that. See how you rate against your peers in the new and improved leaderboards and hunt overview screen. I'm not sure if this is going to be hackable, but I know that's the biggest thing with the current leaderboards is you can just, there was people that were hacking into the leaderboards with like 10,000 wins or something. Obviously wins aren't going to mean as much here. It's not going to be just total wins, it's going to be wins and losses and some sort of a matchmake rating uh, from that. Hunt 2.0 matches do not begin until all hunter slots have been filled by human participants. This is probably the best part of this. I'm okay with a slightly longer queue time as long as we can get a game full of people, and once you get a full lobby, at least on PC, the lobby tends to stick together for quite a few games, and maybe one person drops out. A lot of the time, if one person drops out, it just like kills the whole lobby, although this might alleviate that problem because it's going to sit and search until we get a full human lobby. I actually think that the queue times in Evolve are a lot shorter than other games, specifically like MOBAs, because you're looking at, you know, a team-based game where you need 5+ people, or in MOBAs terms, it's like 10. I've had League of Legends queue times back when I played upwards of like 12 minutes, and I think Evolve does like a 1 minute or 2 minute loading screen and then 2 minutes until the game starts, and you can hold the queue open. So you kind of have like 4 minutes that's set at 4 minutes, and regardless of having the people or not having the people, it's going to take roughly that amount of time. You can shorten it up by readying in a little bit quicker, but generally it takes 4 minutes from when the game ends to when a new game is loading and starting. And then you obviously have the dropship and stuff like that where people could load in currently, but it's going to make load times and wait times a little bit longer in between games, but I don't think it's going to be game breaking. I think you're going to be seeing that you'll have to wait maybe 6 to 10 minutes for a game until you get a full lobby, and then if as long as that lobby doesn't disappear after and you have to requeue again and you can just keep playing with the same people. I'm not sure if that's how it's going to work because it's ranked and because it's a little bit different, but if it does, you could see, you know, quick games after that once you get a full lobby. So I think this is a really good change. Nobody likes playing with bots. It makes playing as Hunter, if you're up against a bot monster, it makes it super easy, and as Monster you can prioritize the bot hunters and then the whole team just crumbles from there. So really good change. Based on your feedback, we improved Observer Mode. It's not something I really have ever used, but that's good. Improvements include watching Hunter and Monster perk selections, better overlays for health, and a new minimal mode. Sounds like good changes. A couple of fixes, there's more a little bit later. Fixed many instances of characters falling through the world. I've had this happen a couple of times, but not all that frequently, but it's a good fix, obviously. Fix for wildlife, failing to spawn correctly. This is actually a pretty big one for Monster. I don't know, let's see, creating a situation where there's not enough food for the monster to fully armor up or reach stage 3. So I've never had it where I can't get to stage 3 unless I play a specific type of monster, right? I want to be evolve ready before I take fights. If you take multiple fights per stage, I have ran into a situation, I think once in like alpha or beta, where I did that, and I didn't have enough to, I got to stage 3, but I couldn't armor up. So I have seen this before. Mainly when I see this is if I get to stage 3 at like 8 or 9 minutes, and I go in for a fight, and maybe throughout the game the hunter team has been killing wildlife as they go as well, so it just decomposes. And on certain maps, like the NAM specifically, I remember that I would be looking for food at like 10 minutes, and I'd still have 10 minutes to go at stage 3, and I don't have any armor because I fought them at the relay once. Maybe I got a couple down penalties. I ran away looking for armor. I look for like 5 minutes, and I don't really find hardly anything. Maybe a couple 1 meats or 2 meats, but not enough to get to full armor. And then after that, I can't find food at all. So if this fixes that, it's actually a pretty big buff for monsters that get to stage 3 early enough to do multiple fights on the relay. Fix several cases of monster launching very far while traversing collisions. I think everybody has seen this that plays Monster or watches Monster games. It used to happen with Goliath when he did certain melee attacks. He would like run really fast, and then in Kraken you could like do an air burst when you hit an object, and it would like launch you really far or something. Either way, it's kind of annoying even when you play Monster. Like sometimes it's good, sometimes it's terrible. So things where you can't really control your character, it's always good to be fixed. Fix an exploit causing Slim's heal burst cooldown to be much shorter than intended. I didn't even know this existed, but a lot of people say Slim's the best medic right now. I think it's possible, and I think that if he's just as strong as he was previously, since there's going to be more Stage 1 and Stage 2 fights, I think he's going to be stronger. The way that I have always viewed Slim is that he's really, really strong at Stage 1, he's decent at Stage 2, and then at Stage 3 his healing is just not quite there to keep up with a Stage 3 monster. So with this rework, and the fact that monsters are going to do a little bit more damage at Stage 1, but there's going to be more Stage 1 fights where Slim shines, I think he's going to be a better medic overall. Although I think there's some nerfs a little bit later, so we'll see what happens there. Fixed functionality loss when late joining on someone who is exiting a lobby. Alright, I've never seen that happen, but okay. So jetpack improvements. New code ensures consistent dodge distances and maximum dodge speeds. Jetpack now initiates a slow climb when completely out of fuel. So I'm guessing this is, if this is new, maybe when you're even not next to a wall, you can just do a slow climb regardless of if you're next to a wall. I don't know what kind of issues this would have though if you can constantly fly up. I feel like if what I'm thinking is actually the case, you might see some new areas that hunters can get to that we never learned about before, and it could be game breaking for certain maps where monsters can't really get up to those points. If you can go all the way up to the skybox and find little areas that you can like hide in, that could be game breaking for monsters like Goliath, Behemoth, even Wraith, possibly. So that's interesting. I don't know if that's actually how it's going to work, but we'll see. Out of fuel slow climbs are now more responsive when hitting the side of an obstacle while airborne. So I'm hoping maybe it's just this. Maybe they just fixed some things with jetpack, because I know sometimes you hit the side and like you still fall. So if that's it, that's obviously really annoying when it happens as Hunter. So good change. Mobile Arena fully deploys in 1 second, now 5. This is where I was talking about Trapper is a little less stressful to play. You don't have to really get into the perfect position to cut off the monster anymore. As long as the monster's relatively inside the dome's going to fully deploy in 1 second instead of 5. So I mean that's a huge change, huge change. You can even follow directly as a Trapper now. I don't think it's going to be still as effective, but this is going to make getting domed at Stage 1, you're almost always going to get domed. I don't even know if you're going to be able to get to Evolve Ready before you have to fight. So it might be armor up, fight, run, get stage ready, fight again, and then stage up, which is what they want. So fix for exploitable areas that hunters could access or drop deployables on all of these maps. I'm not going to go through them all. There's still a few exploits and stuff, so hopefully that fixes everything. I know they fixed quite a few on like Fusion Plant and the Dam and stuff like that, so this is good. So Markov gets a buff, which I'm super happy about. I actually like Markov quite a bit, and the fact that his lightning gun is getting a little bit of a buff is going to be really good for him, because you hardly ever use your assault gun anyway. You just switch to mines and like place down mines and use your lightning gun again. So the delay before recharge when running out of ammo is decreased from 1 second to 3 seconds. So when you run out of ammo, it used to take a little while before it would start filling. Now it's going to start filling almost instantly. And then the beam, acquire, and maintain angles are now increased. So I think it's easier to keep the beam on the person. If you notice sometimes when you're playing like a Wraith that's moving all over the place, your beam will just like hit him for a second and then go off, and hit him for a second and go off, stuff like that. So this is going to help with that. Change to the bots of Torvald, I'm not even going to worry about that. Chaparral grenades have been increased to 15 seconds, the weak spot duration. It was 10 seconds, so that's a buff. And then they buffed mortar cannons again. I'm not sure how big of a change this is from when they were nerfed to when they were buffed. I don't remember what the number was before, but it's probably a middle area. So Torvald could very easily be competitive again. I've still liked Torvald even how he is today. I can still do decent on him just by like leading the target quite a bit. You have to basically figure out, you have to get inside of the head of the monster basically. It's not really a skill thing, it's more of like who is the monster going to be targeting and where is he going to go to try to deal damage to him, right? Like normally I'll be shooting my mortar cannon onto teammates when I'm playing against something like Goliath, because I know he's going to try to go towards that person. So it kind of gives almost like a relief of pressure, or the monster's going to take a ton of damage. But I like buffs nonetheless. I think not many people play him, so buffs are going to let us see him a little bit more. So I'm actually pretty surprised that Lennox got a nerf. I didn't think she was that strong to begin with. If anything, I thought she might have either stayed the same or possibly needed a buff, so maybe I'm just terrible at her. So fix an issue where Thunderstrike Leap was stopped halfway through prematurely hit the ground during smash. Okay. Thunderstrike recharge time increased to 18 seconds, so cooldown increased to 18 seconds, was 15, and then the autocannon reload time is 4 seconds instead of 3 seconds, so slight nerfs to her cooldowns. Veil, the delay before the recharge when running out of ammo, same as Markov's change, 1 second instead of 3. I don't think that's that big of a change because her med gun has such a huge pool of energy anyway. So we fixed an exploit, obviously. We read about this before, where his heal burst cooldown was much shorter than intended. I'm not going to worry about the bot stuff, but the Spore Cloud duration was reduced to 5 seconds, and it was 10. So this is half the duration of Spore Cloud, so that's a pretty big change, because normally you would switch to them once, and then go back to healing, or go back to shooting. Like, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be the biggest change ever, because a lot of the time the monster has left the cloud, but sometimes you would circle back into the cloud at some point or whatever. So I don't know how this is going to affect the game. I don't think it's the biggest nerf ever, but it definitely is a nerf. So Griffin got kind of wrecked in this patch. Yeah, he got wrecked. So his harpoon reload time is 3.5 seconds instead of 2.75. So this is going to make it a lot easier for monsters like Goliath and Behemoth to get away, because once you break the harpoon, you're going to be literally having, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's like 25%, 30%, something like that increase to the amount of time that you have. Same as Maggie. I'm super happy about Maggie changes because I hate playing against Maggie in as like Goliath, because I can never break those harpoons. It always takes me 2 auto attacks because I like try to hit them too early and they latch like as my melee attack is going through them or something. I don't know what I do wrong, but I hate playing against Maggie. And with a new Trapper coming out, we probably won't see Maggie all that much anyway. Alright, bot changes. So the shield projector for Hank. His delay before recharging when fully out of ammo is 1.5 seconds now instead of 1, so this is actually a nerf to him. The delay before recharge, when not fully running out of ammo. Okay, so when you still have a little bit of ammo left in your shield projector and you try to recharge it, it is worse than it was before, but when it's fully out of ammo, the cooldown is actually less than it was before. It's 1.5 seconds across the board now. I actually never really noticed this, and I've played quite a bit of Hank. The damage absorbed per ammo is reduced to 7.3. So this, they talked a little bit about this. It's a nerf to how much he can absorb, but it's basically to match Goliath's new rock throw damage at stage 3. So the 8 value that it was at before would fully block a stage 3 Goliath's rock throw, and it would take away all of the shield. And this is the exact same value for that. It's just because the monster's got slightly nerfed stage 3 abilities, they slightly nerfed his shield projector capacity. Is kind of what it's going to look like. So huge changes to Bucket. So Bucket's missile launcher, his clip size was increased, his fire rate was increased, the missile turn radius, so if you don't know this, you can kind of like aim to where your reticle is, and you turn, and it'll kind of curve your rocket a little bit, so you can curve it more now. The missile speed was increased, and the reload duration was reduced. So this is all buffs to his pretty much every aspect of his missile launcher. It looked pretty fun from what I saw on the stream. The sentry guns, the toss distance was increased, the engage range was increased, the disengage range was increased, which this is actually kind of interesting, where there's a 5-meter discrepancy where it's like locked onto the target, but it's not actually firing, I think, or maybe it fires at 25 meters, and if you like go into that area, then you step back to 27 or 28 meters, it's still firing at you. I'm not sure how that works. The biggest thing that they said is they noticed that the pellet spread on those guns was a lot larger than intended. So if you were right up close to the gun, you would be taking a ton of damage, and if you were farther away from the gun, you would be taking almost nothing, because the spread was so large it was almost functioning like a shotgun would. So they reduced that spread, and it's actually hitting more bullets, so it's dealing more damage, which is why there's a bullet damage reduction, because I guess they were too good or something. We'll see how this works, but I think that Bucket is he's gotten quite a bit of love from when the game released to where we are now, and I think he could possibly even see some more play. With, you know, like slight nerfs to Hank, slight nerfs to Cabot, although Sunny got a buff, which is mind-blowing to me. So Cabot's damage amp, the total damage that you can amp is 700 instead of 1000, and I think they changed the delay when recharging to 1.5, same as Hank. Let's see, Sunny's bot, not going to worry about that. Adjustments to Sunny's bot. Okay, I'm still in the bot area. Jetpack booster, range increased to 45, it was 40. Range increased to 45 on the shield drone as well. So they nerfed this, I think, from 60 or 50 down to 40, and now they're moving it back up to 45. It's not the biggest change. And then the capacity was reduced to 800, was 1000. But then they buffed the mini nuke, I believe. Yeah, the projectile speed was increased double of what it was before, which is actually kind of crazy because it was almost dodgeable. I think it was dodgeable for like Goliath and faster moving monsters, Wraith, stuff like that. Remove the explosion delay. That's not that big of a deal. 0.1 seconds is almost nothing. They did slightly reduce the damage though, and I have no idea what the fire offset angle is, but they reduced that as well. So I guess it's not big buffs for Sunny. I guess it's more of a rework because they reduced the capacity slightly of that, and then they reduced the damage, but they increased the fire rate. So it's kind of like a move in power, shifting stuff around a little bit. Alright, so we probably are about halfway through this patch right now because we're just hit the monsters, and there's a ton of stuff for monsters. So I'm going to try to go a little bit quickly through this because I know this video has been going for a while already. So the in-combat traversal, which is basically when you get put in combat and you get what it used to be was 60 meters away, you would no longer be in combat, I think is what that is. I actually this whole time I thought it was a timer based, not distance based, but it's now 80 meters instead of 60 to help monsters get away a little bit quicker and a little bit farther so they can evolve and stuff like that, I guess. They adjusted carrion birds. So the first 2 meals are always free. It was 1. After spawning birds, there's a 20-second cooldown before the chance starts to increase again. And then the chance will hit 107 meals instead of 8. So basically they made it so that there's more birds, but after there's birds, you have a longer time to eat before you start getting birds again, is basically what they did there. Because this changes because they want more fights at stage 1, stage 2, stuff like that. The damage have been adjusted. We'll get into that in a little bit. The armor has been adjusted. That's a little bit lower as well. And then the melee attacks have been has been basically smoothed out across the board, I believe. You'll notice, like with the melee attacks, you have the same as stage 1 and stage 3. They're buffs to stage 1. Stage 2, I think, is exactly the same as what it was before, and then stage 3 is a little bit nerfed. Alright, so let's get into Goliath. So Goliath, there's a couple bug fixes. He was able to jump longer than normal and sometimes hang in the air for a long time. I have seen this happen a couple of times. Let's see if there's anything important here. Goliath's Sleep Smash would get stuck into terrain and not cause it to do any damage. I think I've noticed this a couple of times, but not a whole lot. And then they made his traversal stamina recharge outside of combat, and it takes 3 seconds longer, and inside of combat it takes 2 seconds longer. This is a pretty big change, but it's mainly so that it stops dome running. I don't know if it's, as long as it doesn't affect his ability to stick on targets, I think it's fine. He has a slightly lower armor at 4,000 instead of 5,000 at stage 1, slightly higher armor at stage 3. So basically they made stage 3 abilities do a little bit less damage, but they gave them more sustainability so that they can stay longer in fights at stage 3. And then at stage 1, they made it so that you take a little bit more damage when you're in a fight, but you'll be doing more damage and possibly get some down penalties as well. Alright, so we talked a little bit about the melee damage. I'm not going to go over that too in depth. You know, they want the sustained damage that you're constantly be doing with melee attacks to be a little bit higher at stage 1 so that you can get those down penalties. And then at stage 3, they don't want you to be so strong. They want you to just be able to stay in combat just for a little bit longer, is what they're going for. We talked about stamina, so let's get into rock throw. So they made the throw speed not much of a decrease at all, but the direct damage, you can see it's 332 now, and it was 265. So the stage 1 ability for rock throw is a lot stronger than it used to be. What I'm mostly interested in is this throw speed increase at stage 3. So it's 36 and it was 29. So I'm not sure how this is going to function, but it should make it a lot harder for people to dodge rock throws. I don't know how big of a change you're actually going to feel with this, but it's relatively significant if you look at it as a percentage. It's like, I don't know, but it's decently high, a decent good buff. Slightly nerfed to the damage, but I don't think it's going to be game breaking. It's what, 35 damage? So that's not that much. Alright, Flame Breath. The attack angle decreased to 12 degrees. It was 15, so a slightly smaller cone, I think is what that means. Obviously, buff to damage at stage 1, nerf to damage at stage 3, and then the attack angle is what you're increasing at stage 3. So you're going to be getting a little bit larger of a cone out of that. Charge, kind of weird there, but it's right here. The duration, so I'm guessing you don't go quite as far at stage 1, but you're dealing a lot more damage, 415 instead of 332. And the duration is increased. So I'm actually not sure if this is a good change or a bad change at stage 3, because a lot of the time I think you can cancel your charge by hitting S, so I think it's okay. As long as you can cancel your charge, it's a fine change, because you can get a little bit more distance out of it. This is the weird one, actually. It's at Leap Smash. So they actually reduced the blast radius across the board, which Leap Smash is like decently easy to land, but not the easiest ability in the game. So I don't know. They did increase the damage, but I think getting 1 rank in this is fine. I'm not sure if it's justified for the 2.2 meters. It probably is. It's probably still a fine ability. I'll have to play around with it a little bit more. When I'm initially looking at this, I'm looking like I'm going to get 1 into Rock Throw, 1 into Flame Breath, and 1 into Charge, and then probably max out Rock Throw and get 1 maybe into Leap Smash at stage 2. Probably. But I still have to play around with it a little bit. Just like looking at this from afar and looking at all the stats, it looks like that's probably what I'm going to try first, though. So they increased the cooldown outside of combat and inside of combat. That's the reduction that you're going to be getting at stage 3. They increased the damage, obviously, and they lowered the blast radius across the board for Leap Smash. So we have Kraken. There's a really good change in here. Fix for Kraken, sometimes using 2 traversal energy when using a single traversal. This thing has been in here since alpha. Super annoying, probably the most annoying bug on Kraken. You see it almost every game when you're playing, so I'm surprised it took so long because it's so repeatable. I don't know exactly what causes it, but they finally fixed it in this patch, which I'm super happy about. This is the thing I was talking about where you're able to traverse great distances by colliding into objects and then jumping off of them and like just kind of floating in the air forever. Reduce the angle that he can break harpoons. And then again, traversal takes a little bit longer because they want you to not be able to dome run as much. And then they actually, Kraken gravity outside of combat is half of what it used to be. So you're going to be able to stay in the air longer, I think is what that means, which should help him get away a little bit quicker and is actually going to normalize the distance that he can cover and things like Goliath can cover, I think. Lowered the armor quite a bit. That's like a 25% decrease. So you're going to take quite a bit of health damage at stage 1. I actually think these changes, they're trying to, they said in the what do you call it, Twitch stream, that they're trying to take pressure off of monsters by making it easier to fight at stage 1, but I actually think the thing that's the most stressful when you're playing monster is taking health damage, because you don't want to take health damage because you know it's permanent, it's going to last throughout the entire game. And so if you're taking health damage at like 3 minutes in the game, you're freaking out like, how can I stop taking damage? So I actually think this is going to make playing monsters a little bit more stressful by making it so that your armor is lower because you're going to be taking health damage earlier. I think although it's not in these patch notes, I thought that they were increasing the max health of most of the monsters, but maybe I'm wrong on that. It's possible that I'm wrong. And then they increase the max armor at stage 3. So I mean, you have more renewable armor at stage 3 once you make it there. Like, let's say that at stage 1 you were gonna take 4,000 damage. So before you would take 0 health damage. Now you're going to take 1,000 health damage. Once you finally make it to stage 3, you're going to kind of get that health back in form of armor, which is actually better because you can disengage from a fight at stage 3 and armor back up again. So it's kind of like you get 2,000 armor at stage, 2,000 total effective health at stage 3, whereas before you would have only gotten the same 1,000. I don't know if that makes sense, but it makes sense to me. So they normalize the melee attacks across the board. They're all going to be 225, 90, 112. Where is it? 225, 90, 112. So they normalized them for all the monsters. Whereas before I think they were different. Stamina changes, I already talked about those. They're going to be a little bit worse, so that you can't dome run. So they buffed the cooldown on Aftershock, but they decreased the radius, I think. Actually, these are straight. Oh no, they increased the cooldown. They didn't reduce it. Okay. So they increased the cooldown at stage 1. The damage is up, and then they decrease the cooldown at stage 3. Blast radius is up, and the damage is decreased. I think with the new Trapper, Aftershock is going to be really hard to use, even harder than it was before. The blast radius is actually a good change because I don't know exactly how big of a change it's going to be, but before you'd be able to get out of it relatively easily if you were saving up enough jetpack, which is what you would do with Aftershock builds. You'd kind of just take the auto attack damage, not even worry about dodging, and then when they went for Aftershock, you'd do 2 jetpack bursts away from them, and you'd be able to get out of it. Banshee Mines cooldown increased at stage 1, cooldown decreased at stage 3, and then the damage is normalized. You have increased damage at stage 1 and decreased damage at stage 3, and relatively the same at stage 2. It's like this for pretty much every ability. Lightning Strike. I don't know why they put Lightning Strike here. I think they messed up a little bit because Lightning Strike's down here. But either way, Vortex, they decreased the speed, so it's a little bit easier to dodge at stage 1. But at stage 3, they increase the speed by quite a bit. That's, again, a big percentage. It's like a 30% increase, I think. I don't know. Math on recordings is always bad. Increased damage, lowered damage, normalized damage. Basically the same across the board. I'm not going to go over every single value because it's just a readjustment to the damage overall that things are going to do. Lightning Strike cooldowns were messed with, so the cooldown at stage 3 is going to be a little bit decreased. Increased at stage 1. Damage, again, normalized across the board. Fixed an issue where Abduct was dealing 2 instances of damage. And fixed an issue where Wraith could use a traversal while targeting a hunter and have it double the teleport distance. That's interesting. I don't know if I've ever had that happen, but this is the one change that they made where they didn't touch Wraith's stage 1 armor, but they increased her stage 2 and stage 3 armor. So I mean, from 5,000 where it is now, from 3,000 at stage 3 is a huge increase to Wraith's effective armor. That's the same as Kraken is now, so it's more than Kraken had previously. What did Goliath have before? Goliath had 5,000 before, so it's basically the same armor as Goliath used to have, Wraith is going to have, which is a huge increase to her effective health at stage 3. I think this is exactly what she needed as well. So we have Supernova. This is one that I was looking at where I think taking 1 rank to Supernova is going to be worth it every time because the buff that they gave to level 1 Supernova is pretty significant. If you look at like what it was before, like 59 damage increase in the lifetime of 5.7 seconds and 17.3 range is almost what it was at like stage 3. I think stage 3 before was right around the 20 meter mark, I think. Or 21.6 is what it was, because there was no change at stage 3. This is the values that it was at stage 3 before, and it's not much different from where it is. And then 77, obviously the damage is a little bit decreased, but I think taking it is going to make your The way that I play Wraith is Sky Wraith, where 3/3 in Abduction and Warp Blast. I think I'll forego 1 Abduction for a Supernova, and I think it's going to work better. I never liked Decoy. I don't think it's... you can't guarantee its damage. It's pretty easy to dodge. You just jetpack straight up into the air. You don't do any direction keys, just double tap space up into the air and it won't hit you. You probably have to do it twice to make sure it's not going to hit you for the entire duration, but the decoy changes, you know, the damage was increased, but it's pretty easy to dodge that damage overall. And the duration was increased across the board, I think. Yeah, so they buffed it across the board, but I don't know if it's going to be good enough. They did decrease the damage at stage 3 quite a bit, by almost half. Abduction cooldown increased. The range was increased at stage 1 and decreased at stage 3, but the cooldown was decreased at stage 3, and then the damage was normalized. I don't think the aim gravity is going to make that big of a difference to most people. It's only for those super long range abducts. Instead of aiming slightly above them, you're probably going to aim, you know, right on top of them, because there was like, it almost acted like there was bullet drop, which is what this was, I think. The blast radius was reduced only at stage 3 and not by a whole lot, but the range was increased. Basically, they're moving the range back where it was previously, but because the dome comes down so much, it's not going to be very easy to dome dodge, is I think what they're going for. I think taking like, yeah, I think even going up to, I'm almost wondering if it's better to just take like stage 2 of this. The damage is a slight buff, but I'm not sure if it's worth going from stage 2 to stage 3. You're not really gaining that much. I guess you are gaining that blast radius, which is super helpful. Yeah, it's still probably worth to take stage 3 into Warp Blast. It's still a really good ability. Behemoth got quite a bit of changes here, but I think we're just about done. I think this is... yeah, we're just about done with it. So Behemoth is basically the last bit here. So the Lava Bomb Fire Pools were actually dealing stage 3 damage across all stages. Not a big deal previously, but they upped the damage on them quite a bit. So the big thing is roll. They changed its damage to 190 across the board. It used to only get up to 75. So when you actually hit a hunter with roll, it'll deal more damage now. That's actually a pretty significant value as well. And then the knockback on it's slightly longer, so you can't just constantly roll into them and just like kill them instantly, I guess. They actually reduced his armor across the board. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I mean, I'll play him. I'll see how he is, because they did increase things quite a bit. So they actually did make his... I think his melee damage is different from all of the other monsters slightly. But yeah, it's increased. The base movement speed is 7.5 instead of 7. Apparently this is a noticeable change that you'll feel in game, even though it doesn't seem like much, is what they said. Again, roll damage changes. The width of fissure has been increased across the board to 7 instead of 6. That's going to help quite a bit. The time between eruptions, I have no idea how that's going to impact the game. But it's increased at stage 1 and decreased at stage 3. So I'm guessing there's going to be more eruptions, but I don't know if you're going to hit them multiple times. That's the biggest thing. I'm going to like test that probably first when I jump into this new patch, is jump into a game, get to stage 3, and look at if I can hit a hunter twice with the same fissure. Because if it does, it doubles the output damage at stage 3. If it doesn't, I don't see any point in getting stage 3 fissure anymore. I think you would get stage 1 and nothing else, because there's not really any point in upgrading it anymore. The damage is negligible, and stage 2 doesn't really give you anything, so I think you would stick with stage 1. Although maybe it makes it go farther, and it was just not changed. I don't know. So lava bombs are where the biggest changes are going. So across the board, I'm not going to go over all of this because it would take forever, but across the board, you're looking at the number of droplets being increased, the muzzle velocity, like the bullet, the like quickness, I guess, of the bullet. It's decreased at stage 1, but increased at stage 3, so it's faster at stage 3, slower at stage 1. The cooldown is increased across the board, so it's It's not a big change, but you'll notice it a little bit. The launch angle, I don't think that's a big deal. The direct blast damage has, I think, been nerfed across the board. Actually, it was increased at stage 1, but nerfed quite significantly at stage 3. But that's okay because the droplet radius. So basically, how these are going to function more now is that area denial is going to be a lot stronger than it used to be, where the damage per second is 100. So if you're standing in that, you're taking 100 damage per second, which is pretty significant. And then the radius is increased, the lifetime's increased, all of that stuff is increased across the board all the way down to stage 3. So you're going to have more droplets, and the droplets are going to deal a lot more damage than they used to, all the way up to 150 damage per second. Which, if you're thinking about that, like, I think 150, if we go all the way back up, just to give it some like, connection here, is rock throw used to be 400 damage. So 2 seconds standing in that, it's 300. The difference, is almost nothing, and you're gonna take that damage a lot of the time. So that's pretty strong, considering that there's gonna be 5 droplets on the ground and you could hit multiple hunters pretty easily. And you get the additional direct blast damage of 250 on top of that. So if they stand in it for 2 seconds, that's 300, and then 400, 550 damage is a lot of damage coming out. The wall stuff, I don't think this is that big of a deal. I think the wall height is fine where it's at, so it's decreased at 20% at stage 3, but increased by 10% at stage 1 decrease, stage 3 increase. Alright, so we have tongue grab. The speed is decreased at stage 1, the speed is increased at stage 3, and the range is increased at the first 2 stages, but the same at stage 3, and then the damage obviously is normalized like everything else. So huge changes to Behemoth. I'm going to play him again, see how he is. A lot of people on the stream were saying that he's a lot better than he used to be, but I'm going to play him for myself because they've been giving him buffs since he was released, and he's never been competitive in my opinion. So obviously I'm not that great with him, but I'll give him another try. What else do we have? So they tuned the perks and the buffs again. They decreased the capacity on Hunter, and they decreased the stamina on Monster, again to make it so you can't dome run as easily. And then I think they nerfed across the board every buff in the game. So elite buffs have been nerfed across the board again. This is the second time. They're just making it so that it's not so game changing. Let's see, they made it so they decreased the Armadon, that's a big one. Movement speed is decently big. Sloth, a huge one right there. They decreased the ones that are the most game changing more than the other ones. So Armadon, Sloth, Mammoth Bird's still pretty good from what it was. Like, this is probably the best buff that you can get as Monster right now. A 30% decrease is probably better than 15% damage. Maybe not. It's about the same as what you would get with a perk, but. And then this stuff is just stuff that we've already seen on PC, but it's finally getting added to consoles, so I'm not going to go over that. And I think that's basically it. So this is going to completely change the game around. I think it's good for the game because it's going to make more action in the game. I think that their intention of making it less stressful on monsters is probably not going to go the way that they want it. I think actually monster players are going to feel a lot more stress with ranked mode coming out and having their armor reduced at stage 1. You're going to feel like you're constantly taking health damage, and you're going to get a little more like anxious to get away from a fight than you used to. But overall, I think it's all good changes. So hopefully it'll add a little bit more action to hunt mode, and people will maybe come back and try it again, and we'll get the player base back to where it was. I actually think, and I don't think that they're actually going to do it, but I think if they released this patch and they did like a free weekend with a sale, we could see a pretty big spike in PC player base. I don't think they're going to do the sale or the free weekend anytime soon, but hopefully we'll see at least numbers back up into the thousands for this patch, and then it'll probably slowly dwindle back down until we see the next tier 5 release as well. But that's pretty much it. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.